Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of VENDO Velocity. This is a long-awaited one for many, I'm sure, just given some of the buzz that's going around in the Amazon ecosystem over the last few weeks. And we've seen a few fee updates on Amazon's side that haven't been very favorable for brands. So none other than Lorenzo, who leads our inventory planning team here, and all of supply chain for that matter, to really debrief on what are these fee changes, what do they mean for sellers, both small and large, and also what can we look forward to, or maybe not look forward to, but the opposite of that, and what do we need to prepare for given some additional fee increases that are coming on Amazon's side. But for those of you who have not met Laarni before, I'll let her go ahead and introduce herself.
Yeah, so like Delaney said, I am Laarni. I head up our supply chain here at VENDO. I've been doing the supply chain side, inventory side for about 5 years now, so I kind of know the ins and outs in terms of all the Amazon changes and transitions. So we'll talk about a few of those fee updates today.
Absolutely. So let's just go ahead and dive on into it. What are these fees that we are talking about here? It is Amazon's FBA inbound placement service fees. So this is a larger fee that went into effect on March 1st. And there's a few nuances about how it works. So everyone, please stay with us here because Laarni is going to break down what it looks like, what are the different options that brands now have versus what they had previously.
Right. So exactly. Basically, when it comes to these inbound service fees, you have two options, whether they're premium or discounted services. Premium service allows you to send inventory to a single receiving center or fulfillment center. Then Amazon will distribute that inventory across its fulfillment network on your behalf for a fee. So that fee really will depend on location. So that's a premium fee. And then on the other side of it is the discounted fee, where you'll send inventory to multiple inbound locations yourself for a reduced fee or no fee, but you're wondering how to avoid these. So what ends up happening is that to avoid these, when you create a shipment order, it'll split into multiple locations. It's important to know that the amount of the discount depends on the numbers of shipments you're sending in, as well as the locations you're shipping to.
No, that's a great point, Laarni. And on the premium versus discounted service, which one have you seen our brands more in favor of? I know we don't have too much data yet, but prior, were they more apt to send to a single location or multiple locations?
I would say because it was more of a cost-effective way. In this past week, since doing shipments, I've noticed clients will prefer to do the no placement service fee, so that even though it's an Amazon optimized service on the back end, they tend to favor using multiple locations or 5 locations because you don't have that fee. However, the downside to that is that you have your warehouse team preparing 5 separate shipments to 5 separate locations, and they just have to be very transparent as to how their shipments are going. So, even though it's shipping to 5 separate locations, your warehouse team has to be okay with that.
That's a great point. And then how is Amazon determining these fees?
Yeah, so there's 4 separate criteria in terms of how your fee is based. So first and foremost is your item size. So whether it's small standard, large standard, or large bulky. It also has to do with your weight, which is as unit weight for small standard, greater of dimensional weight, or unit weight for large standard, as well as large bulky. And then third option would be selecting your option, whether you're choosing premium or discounted. So that's minimal or partial shipments. And then also your inbound location, so location of receiving center. So those are a couple of factors that you have to consider.
And so when we're looking at how brands are now going to be charged for these types of services, are these service fees going to land on their P&L like instantly, or how long do we have until we start to see the impact financially for some of these new fees?
Yeah, so in terms of these fees, it's just super important to note that it doesn't actually hit your P&L until 45 days later. What will happen is that once the shipment's created, the order needs to be fully received in order for that fee to actually hit your P&L. So that's just the side note of that.
Got it. And then can you just give us a bit of an idea on like how costly is this? Like based on the different size tiers that you've noted, what is the range look like for what brands can expect to pay?
Yeah, so for premium FBA inbound service fees for small standard, you're looking at a product size of maybe like 15 by 12 that weighs less than 16 ounces. And that ranges from like 21 cents to 30 cents per unit. And then for a fee for the large bulky items, so your size is like 59 by 33 and can weigh up to 50-pound range. It can get costly from upwards $4.85 to $6 per unit. But then, you can see the full rate card in Seller Central, but it can be very costly.
So when we're looking at like west versus east, like what are the main determining factors on which location or which area geographically would make the most sense for a brand to be shipping to? Like, have you seen that generally west or east coast is more expensive, or what's the trend there?
Yeah. So, for instance, an example would be is that, you have your fulfillment center or your warehouse in the West Coast in California, for instance, here. If you select the West Coast, you're looking upwards of, over, depending on the size of your shipment, it can be anywhere between several $100s to even reaching thousands of dollars. Because let's say your shipping cost is low, but your placement fee is high because of the convenience of shipping to a location on the west side versus on the central side where your mid-tier is about shipping cost of, minimal, which is slightly higher than the lower cost of shipping, but you have a high placement fee. You have a mid-tier cost point. And then same with, like, let's say we ship from here again, California, to an East Coast location, which your placement fee isn't as high, but it can be costly and might take as much longer in the sense because you're shipping from here in California to somewhere, let's say, New Jersey or something like that.
So
So
what should brands be doing here? Like, would you recommend that they send in fewer shipments on a monthly basis so that they aren't faced with such high fees? Do you think the trend is going to be that we eventually see Amazon optimized shipments being the way to go? Or what are your thoughts in terms of when we have a few weeks under our belt? Are there any expectations that you think we're going to see here?
I think in terms of, because we have this fee implemented, it's just being more strategic in terms of how much inventory we're sending in at a given time. I think also too, we might have larger shipments for clients as opposed to some smaller ones because of those fees. Instead of multiple inventory placement fees amongst like smaller parcel shipments, then, I would suggest going the route of an LTL shipment, but then we're better prepared in terms of utilizing, just having one fee as opposed to multiple. Another one would be is if you're using Amazon Warehouse Distribution, AWD, where managing that inventory placement fee within that Amazon network is an included service. So that's just something that, could be another option.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I'm sure that there's going to start to be more options that roll out for sellers too. And I also wouldn't be fully surprised if Amazon takes a hard look at these fees and the impact they're having on sellers to hopefully meet halfway in a sense, because this is really detrimental for a lot of the larger or smaller sellers, I should say, on the platform who are now being faced with really significant fee hikes. And the way in which Amazon kind of hid that under the rug before was, hey, we're going to be giving some decreases on the FBA fee side. But from what we've been looking at, the decreases on the FBA fees do not outweigh the increases that we're seeing on the shipping side. So it'll be interesting to see how this develops. What are your thoughts overall, Laarni? I know that it's creating a lot more manual work for you on the shipment side, but any other thoughts?
Honestly, it's one of those things where you kind of have to adapt and take those challenges from these fees by Amazon and using it in some ways as like a learning curve, maybe better strategizing, how to forecast better in terms of, getting inventory for even our smaller clients into Amazon quicker. So it's one of those things where we'll just have to roll with the punches, but at the same time, provide better feedback to our clients about how we're going to prepare for, events such as holidays and Prime with this fee.
Okay, so now transitioning on to a newer fee, inbound defect fees. What is that? And how is Amazon charging them?
Yeah, so inbound defect fees are if your shipments that you've created are misrouted or don't arrive in the time frame specified by Amazon guidelines. This charge would cover additional costs of, let's say, Amazon redirecting your shipment or receiving and processing them, shipments using the premium or discounted inbound placement service that don't arrive at the correct locations, for instance, or become abandoned are subject to those increased rates based on those inbound locations and the number of shipments that are received. It's important to note that Amazon requires domestic shipments to arrive within a 45-day window. International shipments are a little different, where they arrive within 75 days. So if you're shipping to multiple locations, additional shipments have to just arrive within at least a 30-day period. But you can track your performance, your shipping performance in the sense on your dashboard. So you'll see, hopefully, you're not charged any inbound defect fees.
Got it. So just to highlight all of what Laarni just said there, Amazon is requiring domestic shipments to arrive within 40 days of from the point at which the shipment is created. So that's important for us to note here, because if you see that your inbound defect fees are starting to rise, you really need to discuss internally with your logistics team on how quickly some of these shipments are getting out, and also make sure that you're not sitting on too many open shipments, which could cause you to incur these fees. So really helpful insight there, Laarni. And if you want to understand more about what these inbound defect fees look like from a cost perspective, then like Laarni said, all of those fees are clearly laid out within Seller Central as well. But folks, not just current fees, we also have future fees approaching us. And this one's going to be a bit interesting because it's a low inventory placement fees. And what Laarni was saying about, strategically being able to plan out your shipments and forecast in advance, this next fee makes that even more pivotal, because now in the next month or so, and now it's about 2 weeks from now from so, but Amazon is going to be charging a low inventory level fee. So Laarni, please describe to our audience what this means and how these fees are applied.
Yeah, so like you said, the low inventory placement fee, it's important to note first and foremost, this only applies to standard size products with consistently low inventory relative to customer demand. It factors in basically how it's applied is your 30-day and 90-day historical days of inventory stock that are the basis of this. And so it's incurred and applied on future orders until you stock up again or sell out, and it's based on your historical data. So it's important to note that fact.
Got it. So now we're not just being charged to send in our shipments, but if those specific units do not have enough inventory available, then we're going to be charged even more there. So, and like Laarni was saying, just in terms of the overall calculations, Laarni, can you expand on that? Like, does that restart on a weekly level, or how are these things calculated?
Yeah, so basically for this fee, the calculations take place from the start of every new week. So from Sunday night into Monday morning, in which if the SKU doesn't pass the 30, 90-day or new ASIN test, you'll be stuck with this fee for 7 days. Because right now, since it's a brand new fee, it's not calculated daily, it's calculated weekly at this point right now.
And then is this all at the child ASIN level, or is Amazon looking specifically at the parent ASIN? Just curious, in terms of variations, how it would be best to handle this fee.
Yeah, so it's important to note that because of this, it's done at a parent ASIN level. So if you have variations of one main product, it will definitely impact your the catalog in terms of that product. So it's important to note that it's on a parent ASIN level.
Got it. Yeah. So from a parent ASIN level, I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of different catalog updates from sellers in terms of creating new parent ASINs to try to mitigate this, and maybe moving existing child ASINs into new variation groups just to avoid incurring this different fee, because it could get costly for you if you have a history of not being able to supply to meet the customer demand there. And we've also noted from Amazon that this isn't going to apply to discontinued products. So that's one thing to keep in mind there, is you need to be actively selling and replenishing this product to be able to incur these fees. So at least that is a positive there too. But Laarni, can you go a little bit deeper into some of the criteria on how these specific fees are calculated?
Yeah, so I've got like 3 points to kind of just go over, but the main point right now is it's calculated. If you're a new seller, for instance, less than a year, you're actually exempt from the fee. If you create a new ASIN, your product falls under the new selection program that offers a grace period of about 180 days or 6 months. And then also, like mentioned before, it's based on your historical inventory data. So the first rule is your 30 days of stock on hand, where weekly Amazon will calculate your past available reserved SC transfer units, which you have to exclude your customer orders, your unsellable inventory, your inbound, and then your Amazon will calculate that average stock level for that week. And then 90-day rule, it's similar in the sense to the 30 days of stock rule. However, it allows a little bit more flexibility for high velocity events, such as what you've had in the past of like Prime or the holidays. So that's kind of like your criteria that you're looking out for.
Yeah, that's a lot of great information there, and I want to break that down a little bit, but just so everyone knows where you can actually find this data, if you look at your Manage FBA inventory page in Seller Central, you'll be able to locate both your 30 or your 90 historical days of supply, so that you can use as a benchmark. And Laarni, would love if you could just give an example of like a scenario on how this would work in practice.
Yeah, so kind of a scenario would be is you have a product check-in with 5 days of inventory remaining, which you technically have 31 days. So basically, it's not checked in, not shipped, 31 days of stock on hand, and you want to inbound about 40 days of inventory. You'll technically still be below that 28-day threshold for low inventory because it's still inbounding. This means you sent in technically about like 35 days of inventory and have at Amazon like 40 to 45 days, but due to customer orders, it's still not enough. So you technically could stay in stock 100% of the time, but yet you're still incurring that fee because you're kind of like running that balance between 28 and 35 days.
So what happens when you do reach that 31 days of inventory remaining? Do you have a scenario in which you reach that level? So how do the fees work then?
Yeah, so if you have a product when you reach like technically 31 days of inventory remaining, and you, let's say you provide more, you stock up to maybe like 65 days instead, you send in 65 days, you'll be keeping the historical days of stock above the 28-day threshold for the low inventory fee to actually hit. And then it means that you restocked the same amount of inventory, but you're holding more at Amazon if you're bringing in more. So 65 days. Now you just need to make sure you don't fall, below that 28-day mark for a long period of time to get charged that fee.
Got it. So would love to understand, Laarni, just here. I know you spoke about specifically forecasting on an item level and really both on a child ASIN and a parent ASIN level, because you're going to want to understand that when you move those child ASINs into other parent ASINs, what impact will that potentially have? But Laarni, can you speak a little bit about Vendo's game plan in terms of what are we going to be changing here within our process, or really fine tuning, I should say, because there hopefully won't be too much to change about how we look at inventory?
Yeah, so a kind of, a few factors that we're kind of determining when it comes to this fee is you don't need to stock the max days of every SKU that you have, because it's really unnecessary to have more than 90 days of stock on hand. It's better to find an optimal range in terms of your products by stocking maybe your high velocity items, but at a more strategic level and never dipping below the 35 days of stock. So it just seems like, you have the 35 days of stock, but then, you want to provide a buffer so you can go a little bit more than that. Another game plan that we're, probably going to be doing is product tests and seasonal items. So, product testing will likely require shortening your lead times by having stock on hand to ship to Amazon quickly. And then, the cost of testing a SKU might be inclusive to some of this fee moving forward. So, seasonal items, we talked about this before, Amazon warehouse distribution may be an option because then you're priced in for that. So you can send in stock in as early as you want. So if you want to optimize, your product size and tier of like how much stock you want to send in, maybe, strategizing in the sense of like, if we're planning for holidays, it might be a better move to have 90 days or more of stock on hand, because you'll provide a little bit of buffer after the holidays, so that you won't run into this issue during the 90 days of stock criteria. Another one is your parent ASINs, like mentioned before. It could be used against you or for you. So it just means that if you have products running into serious stock issues, you can maybe move one of those ASINs out to a slower moving parentage to buy you a little bit of time, so that it doesn't drag down the entire parentage ASIN. You don't want to pay the inventory fee for every single variation, which can really hurt you. So it might be wise to remove that ASIN altogether so the others aren't negatively impacted. And then, lastly, like, we talked about before, is to just, let's make sure we're optimizing our lead times, analyzing and forecasting in a better way, going into, coming up around the corner is Prime. So that way it'll shorten, our check-in times at Amazon, and, strategizing better in the sense with our clients so that even though they're hit with these fees, we'll have more inventory so that they're not dinged with this low inventory fee.
See, this is why we have Laarni lead logistics here, because everything's so comprehensive, thorough. Don't miss a beat. Look at all those great insights that she just included in what's the game plan? Oh, well, we already have a game plan, A, B, C, D, and E. So thank you, Laarni. I think that's super helpful to understand, and a ton of strategy there too. I really liked how you said it can be used for you or against you. I feel like that's Amazon in a summary. If you're ahead of the curve and you really evaluate different strategies and you implement them earlier on, then you're going to be on the cutting edge, and a lot of other sellers are not going to be able to match what you're doing. And in that sense, you have a bit of the upper hand there. So super helpful to understand there as well. The last topic that we wanted to talk about today was one in which there's been a lot of more recent conversations around, and that's MCF, or multi-channel fulfillment. So Laarni, what is multi-channel fulfillment, and how would you leverage that?
Yeah, so for multi-channel fulfillment, it's where consumers can purchase goods and services through their variety of channels or sales platforms. But through Amazon multi-channel fulfillment, or MCF, Amazon will handle the storage, the packing, the shipping of products sold online. And it's not to be confused with, MCF and FBA, because, for instance, fulfillment by Amazon allows you to fulfill your orders placed on Amazon only, while multi-channel fulfillment orders will be able to, you can shop on a different channel, multiple channels, including your own website and TikTok, for instance.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And as you know, Vendo is a TikTok shop partner. So through TikTok shop specifically, you can, of course, sync your inventory directly through Shopify, or you could go the MCF or Amazon FBA route. So the new retail platforms that are launching definitely have capabilities across the board. And big reason being is that people like to shop Prime. And they like things that come from Amazon due to how easy and convenient it is to do so. So, Laarni, would love for you to speak a little bit more on that convenience piece, because I think that's what really separates MCF from a lot of other programs, in that there is convenience where the shopper can shop where they'd like.
Yeah, so, some big benefits to MCF is faster shipping. Amazon sets the standard for ship speeds, right? So you offer your customers fulfillment at the speed of Amazon with multi-channel fulfillment and get your orders delivered every day of the week. Amazon fulfills your e-commerce orders, at a priority, which is 1 business day, 2 business days, as expedited, or 3 to 5 business days as standard from when the order ships. And it's something to note is that the competitive pricing. Amazon MCF maintains transparent and simple pricing. So you only pay for fulfillment and the storage costs. There's 1 fee to pick, pack, and ship. And in addition, MCF offers up to 60% of discounts on multi-unit orders. So it's very beneficial in that sense, for sure.
No, you're right. And convenience at its realm is the whole focus of Amazon as it is. So if you are interested in MCF, we're happy to share additional insights there. But I think with some of these new marketplaces that are coming about, we're seeing the adoption of MCF. And that's by no accident, just due to that level of convenience that we're able to offer. So big changes in the Amazon realm. And some big highlights that we'd love to continue to update you on how different fee changes are impacting brands' P&Ls. As Laarni said, 45 days after that shipment is received is really the sweet spot in which we're going to be able to see the true impact. But as we look at Amazon, especially heading into some big periods like Prime, like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, really getting a grasp on your inventory should be your key priority of selling on Amazon. So definitely read up on these topics, as I'm sure there will be a lot of new news related to them in the coming weeks. But Laarni, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be sure to have you in a few months to update the group here on how everything is going.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Laarni. Talk to you later. Bye, everyone.